Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. So even though we are all responsible for filing and paying taxes every year, it always surprises me how little emphasis is placed on teaching someone how to actually read their tax return. It definitely feels like another language. It can feel like Chinese or Hebrew or, any type of language. You just like hieroglyphics for all we know. And it's really, really tough to understand. It's not even written in a way that's easy to understand, even for tax professionals. I feel like with the boxes and the different ways things are structured, and the fact that they change the forms every year, even we're trying to keep up. So I wanted to use this episode to go through and allow you to go get your tax return, go Google the form and actually look at it. Because here's the thing. Your Form 1040, which is what I'm going to go through today, is your federal income tax return. I'm not going to go through states. That would take forever, but we're going to go through the federal. And what you may not realize is that your federal tax return is only 2 pages. Yeah, that's right. Only 2 pages. And you're like, Sham, why do I have a PDF that's like a bajillion pages? Because there's backup for all the numbers. But ultimately, the numbers that matter are in 2 pages. So this is going to actually be a quick episode. What I want to do with this episode is go through the core pieces of a Form 1040, help you understand what it's telling you so that you can identify potential breakdowns in communication with your accountant, potential issues with the numbers, and be able to ask the right questions, because that's where the power comes in. This is where it's the difference between relinquishing your power and taking it back when it comes to your finances, is understanding what questions to ask. So I'm going to give you some of that today. I'm going to ask if you have already filed your tax return or you have a copy of it. I'm going to ask you to go get it right now. Hit pause on this podcast and go grab it. And for those of you who haven't filed yet, I'm going to ask you to click the link in the show notes, which I provided, or Google IRS Form 1040 2022, something like that, because we can just go through it together. There is a free copy of the PDF on the IRS website. It's a publication, and you'll be able to see and follow along with what I'm talking about. We're actually going to do a little paint by numbers here, because every single box on the form is numbered. So I'm actually going to walk you through number by number and use this tool, use this podcast as a way to guide you through reading your tax return. So if you'd like to save this for future use, go for it. Just understand that the tax form will change each year. I'll do my best to maybe adapt this next year, but today we're going to go through the 2022 form. So chances are it's going to change again, but the same fundamental elements are there. So let's go through the Form 1040 at a very, very high level. I want to make sure you're empowered to make the right decision about whether you're ready to file and ask the right questions. The whole first half, though, of the first page of your 1040, you'll notice the whole first half is profile information. It's basic info about you. It should be pretty easy. It's probably a confidence builder when you think about it, to go, okay, that's my name, that's my social, that's my address. Cool. This is not, fantastic new information. You're going to get down to this question, though, underneath your profile info called digital assets. You'll see this little box there. And there's a lot of, quite frankly, I wish they would ask this question a lot simpler. I'm not even going to read it because I get winded. Here's what it's asking you. It's asking, did you trade any sort of digital asset over the course of the year? Because it asks buy and sell. I wish they would just say trade, but So did you buy or sell crypto? Did you buy or sell NFTs? Did you participate in the crypto market or the digital asset market during 2022? This is purely informational from what we know. I don't believe, and I don't know for sure how the IRS is using this or what they're using it for, if it's used for any sort of I think it's more of a survey, to be honest with you. I don't know if they're using it for any other purpose. There is no tax implication, as far as I know, to answering this question, yes or no. However, I would absolutely answer honestly. So if you did trade crypto and you're going, I'm just going to say no, I would not do that. I would answer honestly. I don't believe there is any penalty for answering honestly or saying yes. I don't think yes is a wrong answer. There's no wrong answer, basically. There's no bad answer. Just be honest so that they understand who's actually transacting crypto. That way they understand. And keep in mind that even if you didn't make any money or even really have any activity for crypto, like that resulted in any sort of income, I would still say yes to this if you bought and sold. So digital assets, answer honestly. Now, just make sure that the standard deduction and dependent sections are answered correctly. I think these are pretty simple with check boxes. Dependents, just make sure that you've got all your dependents listed on there that should be on there and all their information is correct. Now we get into the fun stuff. This is the income section. This is the bottom half of the first page. Now, here's the thing. I actually start the income section backwards. I start with line 15, taxable income. And I encourage you to do this as well. I always go right. My eye goes right to that because I know that's the important stuff. That's the juice. That's the meat of it, right? So let me break down what this means. So taxable income on line 15 is the number. Like it is the ultimate number that drives everything on your tax return. And I think it's the most important number on here. The taxable income is how, quote unquote, rich the IRS thinks you are. The taxable income is what you're taxed on. So if that taxable income is higher than you think it should be, or you're like, wait a minute, I made that much this year. How? That is a great question to ask to make sure that everything is entered in correctly. I want you to honestly react to that number and go, do you think it should be higher? Do you think it should be lower? And let's actually figure it out by unpacking it and unraveling to see what goes into it. But that taxable income is what you use to compute your taxes. This is the number used to do those tax brackets. This is the number we use to figure out how much you're actually going to owe or how much you're going to get refunded. So just understand that this is a very, very important number in terms of where all your income's coming from, all the deductions that go into this. This is the final number. And I like to go backwards from that. So let me just go zoom up a little bit to row 12. Okay, let me explain this one. Standard deduction or itemized deductions. This is another really important number. So when you're looking at your deductions, there's two really big types of deductions that will probably apply to you as a listener. This is one of them. So the standard or itemized deductions are, as an individual, you are entitled to either take the standard deduction, which changes every single year. You can take the standard deduction, which is, I'm going to just ballpark it and say between 12 and 14,000 in recent years. I know that, just so this is a little bit more evergreen, it's going to be somewhere around that. And it increases every year. In 2023, it's going to be 13,850. And what we're doing is looking at the standard deduction versus the sum of all of your charitable contributions, out-of-pocket medical expenses, state taxes paid, mortgage interest, property taxes, excise taxes. Basically, there's a list of itemized deductions on your Schedule A, which is later in your return. So you can actually, like in the PDF, you can find Schedule A, and you can go see what makes up your itemized deductions. Now, all you have to worry about in item 12, going back to your 1040, all you have to worry about in item 12 is you get to take the greater of that standard deduction or the sum of all the itemized. Now, for many of you homeowners, your home mortgage interest will already get you over that. So, and also understand that the standard deduction will be different if you're single versus married filing jointly versus head of household versus whatever. So like the standard deduction can vary for different filing statuses. But when we're looking at the single, that's where I'm talking about the 12 to 14 grand. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to look at that and go, okay, I took the standard, or okay, I took the itemized. Why that matters, okay? Why that matters is if you take the standard, if your itemized deductions did not add up to above the standard, that means that you're not getting any tax advantage to those itemized deductions, which would also mean that you're not getting any tax advantage from doing any charitable contributions for the last year. So what I would do is understand in the future, right, going into 2023, okay, well, how far off were we? Are we expecting these numbers to be relatively similar this year? And if we are, and by the way, I'm not saying don't donate to charity, but I'm saying that you have to be aware of whether or not it will actually benefit you from a tax standpoint. So the standard versus itemized, that's what it comes down to. So you'll see either the standard deduction or you'll see a number bigger than that if your itemized were bigger. So you get the better of the deal regardless. So you're going to see that from Schedule A. Going up a little bit, your adjusted gross income is going to be reflecting any other adjustments. Now, you go into Schedule 1 for that, which, you'll see the breakdown. I'm not going to go into each of the schedules, but what I'd like to do is actually just call your attention to these things to go, okay, I now know where the number is, and I know where to find how we got here. Most of you, all of you, if you're business owners, you're smart enough to basically go, okay, here's a number. And we got to that number somehow. I want to see the components of that number. I'm going to direct you to where those components are. And for this one, for adjusted gross income and your adjustments, go to Schedule 1. For your itemized deductions, go to Schedule A. You'll notice that this actual form is 2 pages, but all of these schedules are part of why it's so bulky. It's just to back up these numbers. But what I want you to be able to do is pick one of these numbers that you think, I'd like to know more about that, and go back into that and dive in and investigate on your own. Okay. So we look at your income, and then we go up to your total income. These are actually in bold too for you. They're actually trying to drop you a little bit of a hint here, guys. All the ones I've named so far are in bold. There's a reason, because these are the highlights. These are the big bold pieces. Row 9, this is your total income. So row 9 is comprised of basically everything above it. And row 9 will tell you how much gross income you've made. Well, I shouldn't say gross income. I should say just total income. That's all it is, total income. Part of that total income. So what goes into your total income? Now let's go unpack everything above row 9. So really row 9 to 15 is like a summary. It's showing you the breakdown to get to taxable income. Everything above row 9 is all the ways you made money. Okay. And to get to row 9, you have to add up all these different things. Row 1A is probably filled in if you had a W-2 employment job. So if you made money off of a paycheck, it probably went in here. You got a W-2. If you are a business owner, and you made money through, entrepreneurship, self-employment, et cetera, you're going to see something in 1H, other earned income. And you're going to see that, that will show your profit from your business. Okay. So we're going back to the deductions again. And I'm telling you that if you took business expense deductions, if you took expenses to offset your income as a business owner, we talk about this all the time on the show. When you're taking those expenses to offset your income, you're lowering your profit. What should appear in that line 1H is the ultimate profit. So that is inclusive of your business expense deductions. So if you were to say, hey, where are my deductions? Well, you're going to find that on probably Schedule C, or you're going to find that on your business tax returns. So that number is after all those deductions. So your profit will show up there as business income, aka other earned income. And you'll be able to see where that came from. So chances are, if you're like a W-2 worker with a side hustle, you're probably going to see something in 1A and 1H. That is your wages and your self-employment income. And then you're also going to see between 2A and 6A down the list here, you're going to see some other items like dividends, interest. You're going to see IRA distribution, Social Security. Chances are, if you're listening to the show, you may have some interest in dividends in this mix. You may see some other things in here that might apply to you, but ultimately interest in dividends, that will be coming from investments. So if you have investments in fixed income items, if you have savings accounts, if you have things like that, and you got a 1099 INT or a 1099 DIV from your banks, that is where that income will show up. So these are the different ways that typically people make money, right? So they'll either have their own business or they'll work for another company. That's probably going to be the majority of the income. The other way that you can probably make income is through investments. So you're going to see other investments here as well. You're also going to see line 7, which is capital gain or loss. A Schedule D, D as in David, a Schedule D will show the breakdown of what you bought and sold and how you arrived at your capital gain or loss. So that's where you can actually dive a little bit deeper and see the source of that income. So just to recap, lines 1 through 8 really are going to break down, how did I make money this year? How much money did I make from all these different channels of money heading towards my bank account? Well, where do they all come from? Then we get into what are the adjustments and what are the deductions we take out of that to arrive at taxable income. Taxable income is what you are taxed on. It is what people treat as what the IRS treats as your income to compute your taxes. So now we get into page 2. Page 2, taxes and credits, and then payments, and then refund. All we're going to do in this particular section is do the math. And luckily, thank God for tax software because we do this for you. So what we're going to do is take tax, which is line 16. The tax will be computed based on the tax tables, based on the brackets. So it's going to figure out based on your taxable income, what is your tax bracket, and how we're going to compute your taxes. So the tax will be on line 16. And then what you're going to do is take out, we may have the child tax credit. We might have other line items from other schedules, self-employment tax, other things. So we're going to arrive at what's most important here is line 24, your total tax. If you have to take something away from this section between 16 and 24, look at the total tax. The total tax is what you owe in taxes for the year. That is probably the number one tie between line 15 taxable income, line 24 total tax owed. That is basically all you got to know. That's really all you got to know. The next thing we're going to do is figure out, okay, that is how much money in total taxes they expect you to pay for 2022. Now we have to reconcile that with, well, how much did I already contribute? How much have I already chipped in? Because that's saying, okay, based on everything that happened this year, we expect you, Shannon, to pay this much money in taxes. Let's say it's, $20,000 in taxes. Okay, great. So $20,000 is my total tax liability for the year, but we're not done. That's not what I owe. That is not what I now owe. What we have to figure out is how much have I already paid? How much have I already had withheld? How much have I already chipped in estimates? Because if my total bill is 20 grand, but I've been shipping in, 2,000 a month, something like that. Well, then I've paid 24. Oh, okay. So if I've paid 24, but I only should have paid 20, guess what that means? You get a refund. And that's how refunds work. So the total tax is what your bill comes to when all is said and done, when they figure out the total bill. Then you go down to payments between 25 and 33. And these are the ways that you've already paid. So that could be your estimated tax payments. That could be your withholdings. Make sure, please, please, please make sure that you're providing your tax pro what they need for estimated payments. This is one of those things where you're not going to get a tax form. You're not going to get like a 1099 type of thing from the IRS saying what you paid in estimates already. You need to keep those records. You need to make sure you go back in your bank account and look at the history and provide that info to your pro, because if you don't include those estimates, then you're going to end up paying them again. You want to make sure that you've got that covered and that number is correct. So pay particular attention to the line 26, 2022 estimated tax payments. Okay. Make sure that is correct. Now we're going to figure out your total payments in line 33 is how much you've already paid. So we take line 24 minus line 33 or vice versa, depending on the direction, right? The difference between line 24 and line 33. And then that is how much you either owe or how much you're going to get as a refund. So line 34 or 35 will be filled in. Okay. So it's just simple math. It's you owe 20 grand, you paid us 24. We're going to refund you 4. Or it's you owe 24, you've paid us 20, you owe us 4,000 more. And that's how we figure out how much you owe or how much you get in refunds. It really is not the shake of a magic 8 ball. It's not the roll of a dice. It's not random. This is calculated just based on how much money did you make this year. After we run that through the tax tables, how much should you pay in taxes for the whole year? And how much did you already chip in? That's it. All you're doing is figuring out, where did my money go this year? How did my money come in? Where did it go? How much did I pay in taxes? So when you're looking at your tax return, let's recap. If you have to make sure only a few things are right, and if you only had 3 minutes to understand the meat of your tax return, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to the bottom of page 1, taxable income. Okay, that is my taxable income for the year. I want you to go to line 24 on page 2. Okay, this is how much in taxes I've accumulated for the whole year. Then I want you to go to line 33, how much you've paid. And then I want you to see line 34 and 35, how much you'll owe or how much will be refunded. If you can understand those numbers and just react to them, Which ones provoke curiosity? Which ones make you question, is that right? Then start going one layer deeper. Okay, that I don't agree with what they put for my business income. That's weird. I thought my profit was much lower than that. Okay, now we know where to go and where we need to dig a little bit deeper. And you can focus your attention on those specific areas. I would never expect a client. I would never, never, never expect a client to read their tax return cover to cover every page. It's not a realistic expectation, to be honest with you. It's definitely not, because there's a lot of extra forms. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't mean anything. And there's a lot of things that, frankly, nobody understands in there. And I would just expect you to read these 2 pages and ask questions. Read these 2 pages and go, I want to know more about that number. Can you explain that to me? And I would encourage you, challenge your accountant to explain it to you. And if they dismiss you and they say, well, it's not my job to explain this to you, or I don't have time to explain this to you, or Google it, or whatever, frankly, get a new accountant. They're not going to survive, because ChatGPT eventually will be able to explain it. Frankly, it might be able to already. If you were to ask it, I haven't tried yet, but I bet you'd be able to ask it for help. Now, I wouldn't rely too heavily on it, but I think that my point being, as a human, we have to be humans. We have to have humanity. We have to have compassion and walk people through this and teach it. If you have someone who's not willing to teach you, then you have someone who is a glorified robot. That's my opinion. If they're getting paid just to mechanically fill out the forms and they do not want to talk to you, I would run, because that should be the entire value driver that they had for you, is to be able to talk to you, explain this to you, walk you through it. And I would challenge you to ask them to do that for you, because sometimes people are willing, sometimes accountants are willing, but they're never asked to. They just get the signature page because you get the DocuSign, sign it, send it back. And nobody's putting their foot forward and saying, hey, I would like to understand this better. So I'm going to challenge you as a business owner, ask more questions. But I'm going to challenge my accounting professionals out there. Do your part in explaining this stuff. Do your part in highlighting what they should be looking at. Do your part in summarizing the key items so that they can react to it. And I think the whole country, the whole society would be better for it and better understand their own tax situation for it. So take a look at your return and make sure you're asking these types of questions. And let me know. I'm curious. And I do not need all the details, but let me know if you, from looking at this and from exploring your tax return this way, you found anything or you had any questions. I would love to know if this added value to your tax return review process and if this opened your mind up to actually taking a look at this more often. I would love to know that. So tag me on Instagram or DM me. I'm at Shannon K. Weinstein. I respond to everything. Or you can send me a text message. My number is 860-609-6374. Would love to chat with you. I can't believe how many episodes we've released of Keep What You Earn. There are literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in tax savings contained in our episode library. And there are so many topics that we cover. To make it easier to find more of what you need right now, we actually created a custom curated playlist just for you. That's right, a playlist of value-packed episodes that you're looking for based on your goals right now in your business. Whether you're making your first sale, trying to strategize your taxes, or you're scaling your team, there is something here for everyone. Check out the podcast playlist generator now using the link in the show notes and explore your custom playlist. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.